I want to basically start with the idea and kind of wrestle through the question of, like, as leaders, what are the things that we need to be thinking about ourselves, and what do we need to be thinking about the people around us? And I heard something what Craig Rochelle said in one of his most recent podcasts. He said, the higher you go in leadership, the more your no's are even more important than your yeses. So you're deciding what you're going to say no to, and how important that is to, how you decide that. And that can be everything from opportunities, that can be what you do with your time, but it also does have to do with people. I mean, think about the fact that Jesus spent a lot of time with a lot of people, and he even came down to selection of 12 disciples. And if I asked you today, like, hey, could you stand up and name all 12 disciples? How many of you in the room, like right now, if I called on you, you could stand up and name all 12 disciples, just off the top of your head? Okay? Nobody. So think about that. The 12 people that Jesus led in close to him, he had spent a lot of his time with, a lot of his energy with. But how many of you can name the 3 disciples that were closest to Jesus? Peter, James, and John. So Jesus had to be selective, not only of the 12 that he let be around him, but the 3 that he let closest to him. And Jesus was very intentional. He wasn't just winging it. He wasn't, you guys will do. I mean, there was a careful selection process. So here's what I did. I went back into the Gospels. I've looked very closely at the people, the disciples that Jesus worked very closely with, and then the disciples he didn't work as closely with, but it doesn't mean he cast them out. Think about this. Even Judas didn't get cast out. Judas killed himself. What I just preached this last Sunday about Peter, how Peter screwed up, cursed, said, may God damn me if I'm lying, and then he cursed and everything, and then locked eyes with Jesus. In the gospel account in the book of Mark, when the angel announces to the people who came to the empty tomb that Jesus was alive, they said, tell the disciples and Peter. It was redemptive. Tell Peter, we want him too. It would have been the same for Judas. It would have been, tell Peter and Judas. Judas hung himself. So Jesus wasn't casting people out, but he was selective as to who he brought in closer. And so I want to take some time and learn this. And as I'm talking through these concepts, I want you to think about how this applies to you personally as a disciple. And then I want you to think about how this applies to the people around you. Okay? I want to actually start with 3 words. Observation, opinion, and then opportunity. Okay? So I want you to think of this as a progression. Opportunities, if you reverse engineer it, opportunities really start with observations. So if you think about the opportunities that you've been given in your life, somebody gave you an opportunity, somebody gave you this job or offered you this job. That opportunity came because somebody had an observation of you, formed an opinion about you, and then offered you an opportunity. This is professional. This is personal. Okay? If you're married in the house, somebody made an observation about you, formed an opinion about you, and then offered you an opportunity, or you offer them an opportunity. So here's what we have to realize. If I don't like my opportunities, I'm going to need to change opinions by changing observations. Moving forward as a church, this is all going to work for us. This is also what you're doing with the people around you. You're making observations of people, which I'm going to spend some time talking about this. You're forming opinions, which may or may not be right. And then you're giving or not giving opportunities. All right? So when we look at Jesus, I want to show you some observation that Jesus made and kind of connect some dots. So let's take one of Jesus' disciples, a man by the name of Philip. Okay, let's just take a moment and just say everything that we know about Philip. What are the things you? I mean, anybody like what's the most notable thing about Philip? Huh? No, that's a different Philip. Yep. But the point is, and I'm not trying to make everyone agonize here and squirm, what I'm doing is saying we don't know much. Okay? But we have two accounts of Philip. Two accounts of Philip. You ready for this? I want you to take this through the lens of observation, opinion, opportunity. Okay? So this is Jesus' observation of Philip. This is in, I'll do the first one actually in John chapter 2. No, I'm sorry. Let me pick a different one. John chapter 6. All right? John chapter 6. This is Philip. This is the first time we really hear much about Philip. A huge crowd kept following him, Jesus, wherever he went, because he saw the miraculous signs and he healed the sick. And Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming toward him. And turning to Philip, okay, so we got 12 disciples sitting around. Jesus is teaching. Massive crowd comes. Jesus turns to Philip and asks, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" Verse 6. He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Jesus is going, I want to see I want to observe you in this environment because I'm not sure about what my opinion is yet about you. So he says, where can we buy food for all these people? He's testing Philip. Verse 7, Philip replied, even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them. Philip, you answered the question I didn't ask. Jesus didn't ask, how much money is it going to cost? He didn't ask you to diagnose the problem. He asked you a question, where can we buy bread to feed all these people? If Philip was said, Kroger. Okay, cool. Let's go. You get to ride shotgun on a miracle. But Philip, we can't do it. Get the problem out of here. We're going to solve the problem by pushing the problem away. No faith. Of course, we know in the story, eventually Andrew brings a little boy, and the little boy has way more faith than Philip. But here's Philip. Jesus is like ready to do a miracle. Jesus is ready to do one of the most famous miracles ever. And he's asking Philip, what do you think we got to do, man? No. Just ultimate can't-do attitude. We can't do it. It would be poor stewardship. It would be stupid. It makes no sense. He just said, where should we buy bread? Okay? So, Jesus makes an observation, forms an opinion, opportunity. Now, one of the things about Jesus and all of us is that I think wise leaders don't fully trust their own opinions. I think leaders that are really good are open to changing their opinions. Changing their opinions about people, changing their opinions about situations. Otherwise, I get stuck. By the way, my opinion in John chapter 6 might be different than my opinion in John chapter 21 because things changed. People changed, environments changed, the world changed, the culture changed, our situation changed, the problem changed, things change. So we have to be open to changing our opinions. So here's, Philip's first thing is sort of a miserable failure. Where are we going to buy bread? We can't do it. All right. Now this is another interesting thing. I don't mean to be condescending here, but I want you to see what happens. After the thing, the little boy comes up, gives his loaves and fish, does the very thing Jesus really wished Philip would have done, which is just have faith. And they do the miracle. When it's done, it says in verse 12 and 13, after everyone was full, Jesus told the disciples, now go gather the leftovers so that nothing's wasted. Verse 13, so they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. So Jesus doesn't cast Philip out, but he repositions him. All right? He asked him a leadership question, a vision question. And Philip didn't answer. So Jesus basically was like, okay, go get a basket. We're going to do a miracle here. you go get a basket when we're done. We're going to need you to clean up. And he did. There was a place for him in that place. Jesus didn't say, get away from me. I never want to see you again. I never want to talk to you again. You have no value. He just said, okay, here's your position. Take this basket. And when there's a bunch of stuff, go clean up. Now, we know that clean up, I'm not saying that in a denigrating way. I'm saying that, Jesus said, hey, who's greater, the one who sits or the one who serves? It's not an issue of greatness. It's an issue of positioning. So Jesus positions him as, okay, you can't see this thing, but now here's a basket, okay? Watch this. Later on, here's another one with Philip. So that was John 6. John 14. Jesus is talking to the disciples. He says, when everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am, and you know the way to where I'm going. Verse 5. Thomas says, no, we don't, Lord. We have no idea where you're going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus told him, now watch this, verse 6. This is a very, very famous verse. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you had really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you know him and you have seen him. So Jesus is connecting the messianic dots. He's saying, well, they think it's a where and it's really a who. Where are we going? He said, no, it's not about where we're going. It's I am the way. You want to go with me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now watch this. Our boy Philip comes back in verse 8. Philip said, show us the Father and we'll be satisfied. Verse 9, Jesus replied, have I been with you all this time, Philip? Dang it, Philip. And yet you don't know who I am? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. Look at the punctuation. If you've got your Bibles open, in verse 9, it's exclamation point. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? Philip, doggone it. We tried to feed the 5,000. I wanted you to be a part of the big thing. I wanted you to see the vision. You couldn't see it. And now I'm sitting here like, well, show us the Father and we'll be satisfied. Philip, have you been with me all this time and you still don't know? Like you're not able to connect the dots. Now, take that and compare it. We don't know much about Philip. We know a little bit about Philip. We know Philip had a can't-do attitude when they fed the 5,000. And we know Philip couldn't connect the dots of who Jesus was. Who were the three that were closest to Jesus? Okay, Peter, with all of his flaws. Remember, we just talked about this last Sunday in Matthew 16. Who do men say that I am? Oh, some think you're this, some think you're that, some think you're John the Baptist, some think you're... Okay, who do you say that I am? What did Peter do? He connected the dots. He was able to connect the dots. Jesus didn't give it to him. And Philip couldn't connect the dots. Show us the Father, we'll be satisfied. I just said I am the way, the truth, and the life. And he couldn't connect them. Peter connects the dots. I want to show you a few different places where Jesus is helping Peter connect, or basically gives Peter an opportunity to connect the dots. All right, so you remember when Jesus called Peter originally. Does anybody remember the circumstances when Jesus showed up in Peter's life and invited him to be a disciple? Do you remember what was going on? He's out fishing, okay? And do you remember the circumstance around his fishing that night? What kind of fishing excursion was he having? A bad one, okay? He had fished all night and he didn't catch anything. And what did Jesus do? He says, cast your net on the other side. And what does Peter do? He does it. And what happens? Gets this huge catch. And then Jesus turns the conversation. And what does he say to Peter? Put down your net. I'm going to make you a fisher of men. This is a turning point in your life. Okay? So you remember that story? It's at the beginning of Peter's calling into following Jesus. Okay, so Peter goes all the way through. He screws up at the crucifixion. Jesus comes back and quickly reveals himself a few times to the disciples. Now I want you to catch this. The third time Jesus reveals himself you got to get the context of this, post-resurrection, after Peter's failure. So here's a high potential guy. We know Peter had tons of potential, but he was erratic. He was volatile. And so Jesus is now testing him in the same way he tested Philip. John 21. All right? So the context this is after the resurrection. At dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. And he called out, "Fellas, have you caught any fish?" So by the way, at the beginning of chapter 21, Peter goes back to fishing. I used to be a fisherman. I became a fisher of men, but I screwed up real bad. So what do? I'm going to go back to being a fisherman. I'm going to go back to being a fisherman. He reverts all the way back to his older mindset. So Jesus shows up. This is a huge moment. Huge moment. Jesus shows up, calls out, "Have you caught any fish?" "No," they replied. Verse 6. Then he said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll get some." What's the dot that's being connected here? He's giving Peter, this was no accident. What's he doing? He's helping him connect the dot. So they did it, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. Sound familiar? This is the second time this happened. But the timing, post-resurrection, after Peter's big failure. Then the disciple that Jesus loved said to Peter, "It's the Lord." So they go, they go to the shore, and Jesus at the shore. I love this, verse 15. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Okay, here's what he's not saying. "Simon, do you love me more than you love the rest of these guys?" He's saying, "Do you love me more than the rest of these guys love me?" Why was he saying that? Let's us connect the dots. Okay? Jesus wasn't saying, "Meredith, do you love me more than you love all of them?" He's saying, "Meredith, do you love me more than they love me?" Why was he asking him that? Yep. What else?
I think it was saying then feed them, lift them up, carry them with you, because then he says, then feed the lambs, feed my lambs.
Yes, so watch this. "Do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Well, then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. And Jesus repeated the question. "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Okay. By the way, connect the dots. Simon, son of John. Remember when what we just talked about this last Sunday, when Peter said, "You're the Christ, the Son of the living God." It refers to him as Simon, son of John. Before that, after that, it goes, "You're Peter," which means rock. He goes back and, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "You know I love you and take care of my sheep." Third time, he asked him. 3 times. "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time, it says in the text. And he said, "Lord, you know everything. You know I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." What's the significance of Peter, "Do you love me more than these guys love me?" And why did he ask him 3 times? Peter denied him 3 times. What was the claim that Peter made before the crucifixion? "I'll never do that." They might deny you, but I won't deny you. Are you seeing this? They'll deny. If they all deny you, I won't deny you. And then he denied him how many times? So Jesus says, do you love me more than they do? And he asked him 3 times. By the 3rd time, Peter's hurt. But he connects the dot. He connects the dot. And so Jesus is saying, look, after he goes all the way through that, and he answers, and Peter connects the dot, Jesus says, in essence, let's go be fishers of men again. Come on back in. But I need you to be able to connect the dots. So if you're going to be a leader, and Jesus knows ultimately he's going to ascend to heaven, and I'm going to leave the mission to Peter and James and John and ultimately Paul and these guys, I need you to be able on your own to connect dots. So Jesus didn't give him all the answers. He asked him a lot of questions. And he's trying to train Peter to look around. So this is huge. And start with yourself, okay? one of the greatest leadership skills you can develop, trained right from Jesus, is the ability to connect dots. Okay? You can't rely on podcasts and content and fill in the blanks to teach you how to be a leader. The best leaders can look around and go, and they're looking at the culture, and they're looking at the people, and they're feeling the room, and they're feeling themselves and their own thoughts, seeing something's off, and they're looking ahead. Okay, what's next? Okay, we just had 2,600 people, and we just had 450 kids, and we just had 81 people accept Jesus, and we got this building, and now we got this floor down, and what's next? Connect the dots. One of the things I'm doing with my daughter right now, 10 years old, getting ready to turn 11, but she's a smart kid, and I'm trying to train her. So what I'll do, the other day, I'm out on the grill, and I'm grilling brats. And Shaylin's in the house, and she's making asparagus and stuff on the stove. And Ella's sitting around. And what I want to say is, Ella, go set the table. But I realize she's not connecting the dots. So I'm like, Ella, look ahead. What's the next thing that needs done? Table probably needs set. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Well, Dad, do you want the ceramic plates and the silverware, or do you want to use plastic and paper? Good question. What's going to be done after dinner? Well, we're going to have to do the dishes. Okay. Do you want to do the dishes? No? Then which one do you think you ought to pick? Paper and plastic. Ding, 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 ding. Okay? And when I talked to her, I was, Ella, don't make me talk you through this every time. Figure it out. In life, start looking ahead. What's next? Okay? Hey, we're getting ready to go to Costco. What needs done? What's next? Okay? Miles is naked. Hudson's running around. Okay? Don't make mommy do all this. Don't make me do all this. Start looking around and go, what's next? How can I get ahead? And how can I look ahead? That's what leaders do. And so Jesus is going, if I'm going to trust the book of Acts to somebody, it sure as heck ain't going to be Philip. You don't hear much about Philip in Acts. Go to Acts, look for Philip. All you'll see is Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch, not the same guy. It's not even the same guy. He's not found. Philip's not around because he wasn't connecting dots, a big piece. So around with yourself, start to look and go, now what dots am I connecting? And what dots need connected? And not that you have to be the genius that knows everything, but it's your job to connect the dots, to get them connected in some way and to look ahead. Otherwise, this is what will happen. You'll start to have opportunities not open for you. Wherever you're at, one church, elsewhere, doors in the community won't open, opportunities won't be there because you didn't connect the dots, and you'll sit there and you'll go, well, nobody trained me, and nobody taught me, and nobody told me, and it was unclear, and I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't know what, nobody said what. You'll blame the people up above you or over you that they should have done it for you. By the way, this is one of the major threats, not only here, but in society right now. Because the educational system has taught people to just be given stuff, not to connect their own dots. So when's the teacher going to give me the answer? So then they go in the workplace and they want the boss to give them the answer. But the boss is like, if I'm giving you the answer, I probably don't need you. One of the ways you find a place for yourself is you're connecting dots. Okay, so we know what was important to Jesus, the dots that he wanted to see connected. And yeah, I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about some that just really important for me, okay, and things that I'm observing right now, okay? Very specific, all right? Three observations that I personally, when I'm looking at somebody to go, what kind of opinions am I forming and what opportunity? that I want to give or not give, I'm really looking at these three things. The first one is attitude. Attitude. Before you meet somebody, you meet their attitude first. And I mentioned the can-do attitude that Philip didn't have. Now, I want to be clear about this. A can-do attitude doesn't mean we never push back. A can-do attitude doesn't mean we go, oh, we're going to jump out of the helicopter with no parachute. Yeah, let's do it. We can do it. No, that's stupid. Right? I'm not saying blind following. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is a can-do attitude around, I'm optimistic about this. I'm not going to stop the first time that something blocks us. I want to come to the table going, we can do this. And let's do everything we can to make it happen. Philip in that interaction, very short, it wasn't, Jesus says to him, Philip, where are we going to buy food? Philip could have said, we can buy food at such and such a place, but he could have asked the question back to Jesus, where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the resources for this? Where are we going to pull the resources from? He could have posed a question back to Jesus, but he made a statement. And his statement was, making a statement, this is a bad idea. Instead of asking a question, Lord, is this the best idea? Is this the best use of our resources? I can have a can-do attitude and still pose a question to kind of get to where we're going. So attitude is extremely important. The second one is preparation. Preparation. So I'll just be honest with you how I look at the world and how I look at situations. I would rather somebody get up and give a really bad presentation that I knew they were prepared. Hey, would you lead the huddle? Would you lead the Devo? People that don't take the smallest opportunity for granted. I'll tell you a few things that I just respect. Terrell Carter. Anything we ask him to do, he takes it so serious. Hey man, would you write a rap for One Big Party? It was like it belonged in the Smithsonian. He took it really seriously, and he got paid nothing. If any time he's going to go up and do something in service, it's been thought out, prepared, worked out. I look, I know we're working with Mike, and you're going to see his presentation a little bit about his goals, right? We had to help Mike pare down his goals because we asked Mike, and Mike was going to share all that, okay? Just like words and words and words. Well, you know what? We can work with that. Highly prepared. Send it in early. Now we can go, hey, let's figure out how to truncate this and make it a little more poignant. That's cool. I'd rather take that than the person just winging it. So preparation, especially as we're moving forward as a church, is extremely important, and that will help you to continue to grow. I'm looking at who's prepared, and you should be looking at the people around you. Who always shows up prepared, and affirm it. And people who take opportunity for granted. The next one is communication skills. When you think of communication skills, don't just think of preaching and teaching. This is the ability to communicate with people. Okay? You're going to need to, over time, like here's what's about to happen. Everyone in this room is going to have the same challenge that I've had over time, which is you start out with a very small group of people, right? So I'll pick on Ryan for a minute. Ryan started coming to one church back when we were at Cornerstone Academy. When he started out, he was drumming and he was in the band, so he has a few friends, and then he started on the host team and developed a new circle of friends. And so Ryan's got quite a few people that now consider him to be a friend. Now he's taken a job at one church, right? So now with his job at one church, he's got to take his friends and the people he loves, and the Chapmans and B Penn and all these people that are in his world and in his circle. But then now there's about to be a whole bunch of new people that like this is their leader. And then a bunch of new leaders that we got to onboard at 2 campuses. So, okay, what happens when the people who are closest to you are like, dude, I don't even see you anymore, man. I invited you. I mean, you're not going to be able to get everyone's graduation party. You're not going to be able to get to every kid's birthday party. You can't afford to buy everybody who thinks you're awesome. You can't afford to buy them all a present. You can't do all that. So at some point, like the quality, we have to get quality in a short quantity. And a lot of that is communication skills. Okay? So this isn't, again, this isn't we become cold-hearted, we never go deep with anybody. Jesus went deep with how many? But think about how he went out, he touched the masses. The woman with the issue of blood touched the hem of his garment. Jesus stopped the whole thing. She thought she was the only person in the world. And to him, she was right then for about a minute. Helped her with what she needed. Gave her full eye contact, full communication. Spoke into her life. Valued her in that moment. Got to go to the next. You do know there are people that when Jesus did something profound in their lives, tried to follow him, and he said, go home. He didn't just take everybody on. You can't. So that means part of the skill you have to develop is a communication skill that to be able to talk in 30 to 60 seconds help someone understand that you care about them. You're giving them the full Dustin pool in that moment. They get for that moment without blowing them off, dissing them, swim moving them, but you've got to be able to connect with them quickly and to talk about things there and make that a quality interaction. But you're going to have to be able to branch out in a broader way. Otherwise, again, it becomes a limitation for opportunities. If you just want to be friends with 10 people, then it's going to be limited opportunities. You got to be able to help people connect with them more quickly, okay? And still make sure that you're getting those healthy, deeper relationships in the few that you have. The fourth one I'm going to give you is just solutions. Solutions. People coming up with solutions. Anyone can bring a problem. That's not hard. Look around this room just real quick. Let's fire off. What are some problems in this room? There's no baseboard. Ceiling's butt ugly and doesn't match the motif, right? What else? Floor's not done. Huh? What's that? It's cold in here. Okay. Yeah. So we can fire off all the problems in the room. We can fire off all the problems in the department. We can fire off all the problems on the staff. We can fire off all the problems in the production. Are we solution oriented? So think of it like this. And by the way, let me put this out there too. When you see a problem, bring more than one solution. Unless the solution is ridiculously obvious. Bring 3 solutions. Minimum. Because sometimes the one that's most instinctive or intuitive isn't the best option. And we go, actually, wait a second. The third idea might be the best one. The fourth might be even better. Or at least if we go 6 deep in solutions, we can always come back and go, we're going to pick the second one, but we had the discipline to look at it from every angle. Okay? So bring at least 3 options. All right, I want to talk about opinions. All right, let me talk about opinions for a little bit. Here's what we all do naturally with opinions. Likes, like. Okay? So likes. We tend to like the things that are like us. It's just human nature. People that are into what you're into, you're attracted to them. People that have this, naturally the same skin color that you have or come from the same place that you have. Like tends to attract like. This happens in organizations. People that look through the lens. Let's take the pendulum from a very aggressive, entrepreneurial, innovative mindset around the business or the organization, and then over here, a more conservative approach. Pace, let's do things well, let's do things slow, let's slow it down. Over here, it's like, let's rev it up. So we'll call these guys the gas pedal, and these guys the brake. Okay? Naturally, if we just are left to our impulses, likes like. So the same thing that you're frustrated about based on where you're at on the brake to the gas, somebody else that's in that same zone, you will have the same squawks, the same issues, the same frustrations, the same logic, making the same sense. And so we will all get to one another. And this is how silos form organizationally, because we think we need to hit the brakes and we think we need a bigger gas pedal. And so now the team's not leading well. So I think what we have to understand is in opinions, also, if you're not careful, you'll look up and your team all looks like you. Your team all looks like you. Because you like what you like. And you value what you value. So all of a sudden you look up and everybody that values the same thing that's the table. And we don't have a robust conversation because we're all just amening one another, because we all see it the same way. So the reason I say this is because this is the self-awareness that you have to understand who you are so that you can understand where your liabilities are. Because if I'm not careful, I will undervalue the other way of looking at things or the other personality type or the other skill sets. And that will affect my opinion. And we're all here are people who have authority and power, and you've been highly empowered to position people and give people opportunities, which means if I'm not careful, I'll give all the opportunities to people that are like me. So if I do that, here's what will happen. The people who aren't like me, who are extremely valuable, will, or maybe even worse, is the people who aren't like me will pretend to be like me because they want an opportunity, and I'm actually limiting who they really are and what they really bring to the table. So this starts with understanding it on the front end so that I go, man, as I'm forming an opinion, I have to understand that my predisposition is going to be to people who think like me, look like me, and value what I value. And I can't just give opportunities to those people because I don't want the people around me to have to fake it or to lose hope that there's a place for them and that they're valued. So we that's what we want to think about, okay? And to look and realize where those liabilities are. And I mentioned this earlier, but I want to come back to it. Great leaders have the latitude to change their opinions. They have the latitude to change their opinions. Even if it's something that you have preached and something that you have proclaimed and something you have declared as a truth or a philosophy that you're anchored in, great leaders have the latitude to change their opinions. They are self-aware enough to know that they have one and that it is an opinion and that it might change. And so you want to be a little skeptical of your own opinions. Here's the thing. When you form an opinion about a person, you have four options. You can promote, you can demote, you can stagnate or delay, or you can remove. And I bring this up because these are some of the most important decisions we're going to make in this next season. The two biggest threats to the mission and vision of where we're going, the two biggest opportunities are resources and people. Resources and people. Resources and people. So as we're making decisions, we're forming opinions about people. within that, there are some that we will promote, some that will demote. I'm not just talking about this team, I'm talking about all of our teams. Some that will stagnate and leave them where they're at, and some that will remove. And so what I'm trying to give you here is a grid for you to make decisions and go, I realize I have an observation. I want to really, before I make one of these moves, make sure that I feel confident in my opinion, bringing other people into the conversation, listening, and recognizing there may be, I may change an opinion about somebody or about a situation, and then decide what we're going to do there. All right? If you don't like somebody, ask yourself why. What is it about that person? What is it about that person? Because just because your feeling is strong or clear doesn't mean it's right. A lot of times people, because we're so feelings oriented, it's just human nature, if they have a strong feeling, they go, it must be right. It can't be wrong if it feels this right. I mean, I've had people literally argue directly against the scripture, that it's just black and white in the scripture, and go, it can't because I feel this. And I feel it really strong. You can't tell me this feeling's wrong. So again, this works against and for us as well, because we go, if I get this really strong opinion, I might be really strong in this opinion, but I could be wrong. And I need to ask myself, why do I have that? What is it about that person? What is it about me that reacts and bristles up that way? And this is like an interrogation. And by the way, the Holy Spirit brings revelation in that. Invite Him in. Pray about it. Lord, why do I have such a strong opinion about that situation? Why am I so averse to that? And it may lock you into that opinion even stronger, or God may show you something. No, there's something there in you. And there's something that you haven't seen. That's that revelation piece.